Hey guys, are you ready to transform your mind so you can transform your life? Coach Mirna brings you one-on-one coaching and expert guests weekly to help you to grow. Because happiness is the progressive realization of a worthy goal.
Looking for personal growth? Let's do it.
The right outfit doesn't just change how you look, it changes how you show up. There's something powerful about the way you show up in the world. That's why I'm excited to share one of my favorite discoveries with you, Quince. Quince is a casual luxury brand priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. Refresh your everyday with luxury you'll actually use. Head to quince.com/TYM for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/TYM for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/TYM. This episode is brought to you by Spark Energy Plus Focus. Let me share something personal. I'm actually very sensitive to caffeine, so starting my day with strong coffee doesn't work for me. I feel energized throughout the day, and then I'm up half the night. That's why I like Spark Energy. It gives me clean, steady energy without the caffeine overload. I can start my morning with Spark, get my workout in, record my podcast, and stay focused throughout the day and not have that 4 p.m. fade. Spark Energy Plus Focus is offering 30% off and free shipping. Go to drinkspark.com and use code TRANSFORM at checkout. That is DRINKSPARK.com. Use code TRANSFORM for 30% off plus free shipping.
Addiction is not just a chemical imbalance, okay? Addiction is really hardwired to habits and behavior and memory, all sorts of very complex things that are in the brain. And there's one psychedelic, which is called Ibogaine, which is now being used in Mexico primarily for veterans with PTSD and traumatic brain injury, as well as addictive behaviors. And it's a big journey. It's sometimes a 24-hour or a 36-hour journey, and you are having at least two weeks of integration following this journey in these places. But a lot of people are finding a lot of relief from things that modern medicine has no way to really address.
Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio, podcast, and television show. I'm your host, Life Coach Renee Young, and sitting in the guest chair today is Joe Dolce. And Joe and I are going to be speaking on the topic Modern Psychedelics, Mindful Exploration in Mental Health. Welcome, Joe.
Hi, Myrna. Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right. So let me ask you guys a question. Have you ever felt stuck inside your own mind? Like you've done the therapy, read the books, prayed the prayers, changed the habits, and yet something deep inside that still feels unresolved? For decades, psychedelics were pushed to the fringe, misunderstood, stigmatized, dismissed. But today they're moving into mainstream conversations around mental health, trauma recovery, and neuroplasticity. And with that shift comes hope and hype. So how do we prepare science from essentialism, healing from escapism, transformation from trend? My guest today, Joe Dolce, is not an evangelist. He's not a prohibitionist. He is an investigative journalist who stepped into this world reluctantly and came out with a balanced, evidence-based perspective on what psychedelics can and cannot do. In this conversation, we're exploring mindful exploration, what it really means to approach healing responsibly, what the science says about breaking mental patterns, and why integration may matter more than the experience itself. So if you've ever wondered whether there are new pathways to healing, especially when traditional approaches haven't fully worked, this episode is for you. So let's transform your mind. All right, so let's dive in. So, Joe, you describe psychedelics as non-specific amplifiers. What does that mean, and how does that explain their potential across conditions like depression, PTSD, and addiction?
Well, let's start with the first part, Myrna. Non-specific specific amplifiers basically means that psychedelics aren't imposing anything on the mind, but they're amplifying things that are already in the mind. Okay, and that was a term that was identified by Stanislav Grof, excuse me, a psychiatrist and a neuroscientist, about maybe 40 years ago. So it's a fairly well-known term within the psychedelic community. Um, the fact that there are things already in our minds isn't going to help with healing. That isn't exactly the connection here. But psychedelics have the ability to, as you mentioned, open some new pathways in the mind. And I think they create a state of openness. I don't only think so, science is showing us this, that allows transformation to occur. Um, so they're not Psychedelics aren't doing the healing, but they're allowing an opening in the mind that can allow that healing with the proper therapeutic support, the proper support alongside of them. They themselves aren't going to do the job.
Mm, okay, I get it. So, I know that a lot of psychiatrists are using the drug now, like I have here in this question. They're using it to help with depression, PTSD, and addiction. So, what exactly are psychedelics doing to help with those conditions?
Well, the interesting thing is that there's about 9 major psychedelics, and they're very different. Their effects are very, very, very different. Some are very long lasting, some are very short acting, some are visual, some are not visual. But the interesting thing is they have a transdiagnostic appeal. So that means that very different substances are all enabling different types of healing, but with these same sort of conditions, the ones you mentioned primarily: depression, PTSD, anxiety, and in some cases, addiction. So, what are they doing? That's the big $1 million question. Okay. And there's lots of different theories and scientists working on it. The one that I think the strongest evidence is from a scientist named Gul Dolan, who's at Berkeley, and she's a neuroscientist. And she has done a lot of work over the last 7 years in animal models, but she has shown that on the molecular level, psychedelics are opening what is called a critical period of learning. So that's a time when the brain is very sensitive and very able to absorb lots of information. Okay, and there's critical periods of lots of different things in life. There's a visual critical period, which happens at a young age. There's a critical period of language learning that happens from maybe, I don't know, age 3 to about 10, which is when, and you know this is when kids are really able to absorb a new language and the same sounds. They can do it without an accent. After a
Mm,
certain age, though, there's always going to be an accent. And
mm,
the ability to learn another language is more difficult. And we know anybody who's ever studied a second language knows this is the case. That critical period of language learning has then closed. So these are limited periods of time when massive amounts of new learning can occur. So the work that Gul Dolan is doing is showing that psychedelics open these critical periods of learning where different thoughts come in, different memories are sparked, different ways of perhaps seeing your trauma um, are exposed. Okay, and with the right therapeutic support following the trip, you can work on reframing how that, so let's say it was trauma. Okay, let's say it was some rape, some horrible thing that happened at a young age. Okay, that was locked into memory and also locked into behavior and locked into habit. And this is not just, oh, hold on please 1 second, this is not just psychology, this is neuroscience. So it's actually being shown on the molecular level that these memories get encoded and get firmly entrenched. So the theory is that the psychedelic opens this critical period, and you can re-examine that and maybe have a different approach to how you frame that trauma. You can change your emotional, your mental, your behavioral memory and experience of it. And the same can be said with another difficult problem like addiction, right? Addiction is not just a chemical imbalance, okay? Addiction is really hardwired to habits and behavior and memory, all sorts of very complex things that are in the brain. And there's one psychedelic, which is called Ibogaine, which is now being used in Mexico primarily for veterans with PTSD and traumatic brain injury, as well as addictive behaviors. And it's a big journey. It's sometimes a 24-hour or a 36-hour journey, and you are having at least two weeks of integration following this journey in these places. But a lot of people are finding a lot of relief from things that modern medicine has no way to really address. So it's quite amazing. Quite amazing. Have you ever heard of Ibogaine?
No, but the one that I've heard of is ayahuasca. That's a psychedelic, isn't it?
Ayahuasca is a psychedelic also. All these are in my book, which you mentioned at the top of the show, Modern Psychedelics, the Handbook for Mindful Exploration. Yeah, I talk about the main nine. Ayahuasca is a very interesting mix of two plants that individually don't have a psychoactive effect, but when put together and boiled and ingested, take you on a pretty powerful journey. And ayahuasca comes from the Amazon, and it's been in use. I think it's been for about, well, the first recorded was about 500 years ago. Okay, and a lot of indigenous tribes use this as initiation rites, or to spread the tribal ontology, the way the culture of the tribe exists. Very interesting, and they've been doing it this way for hundreds of years. Yeah.
Yeah, I was introduced to ayahuasca in Will Smith's book. I don't remember the title of it right now, but he talked about how he went to the Amazon, like you said, and someone told him, I think he was having problems with his wife. He said to her, "I can't please you," and he ran off. And someone told him about this ayahuasca thing, and in his book, he talked about the trauma from his dad and from his mom. He had things and he was afraid. That's why he became a pleaser. So he went on to this ayahuasca journey from the first time, and he said he became addicted to it. He went 14 more times, and I mean, he felt that he was floating, and he saw angels, and he saw whatever, but it wasn't a mental health trip. It was releasing trauma and seeing the world differently and no longer being afraid. And that's why he was
Mhm.
drawn to it for 14 times. But I
But
have,
I have to correct you. It is not an addictive substance. Okay.
okay.
And if he may have said I don't know if I have not read his book, so I don't know if he actually said he was addicted. But ayahuasca is not, no,
No,
almost no
no, no, he
psychedelic
didn't say he was addicted. He said he couldn't get enough of the trip,
can get enough of
meaning
it.
that he loved how he felt on the trip. It wasn't addictive. He just kept going back because he wanted more. No, it's not addictive, right?
Have you ever tried it?
No.
It's a big journey. It's a big experience. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's true for most psychedelics. They are big and they are powerful. And that's one of the things that distinguishes them from other substances, other drugs, is that you do one and you're pretty satisfied for a very long time. You're not running back to that next ayahuasca ceremony tomorrow. Okay.
Mm,
I mean, some retreats will have it so that there are 3 ceremonies organized within that week.
okay.
But they're very opening, very powerful experiences. And you want to make sure you have a lot of support on the other end of them. I feel that way anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you done any of these?
I've done most of them to write the book. Yeah, I've done
Oh,
almost all of them. And
Okay.
I haven't done ayahuasca a 3 day, three ceremonies in 1 week. I've done that with psilocybin, though, magic mushrooms. Like
Mm,
your retreat in Jamaica, where every other day we were using psilocybin.
mm,
A very,
okay.
very powerful, very, very powerful experience. Yeah.
Losing weight is one thing, but keeping it off, that's where it gets really frustrating. That's why Weight Loss by Hers now offers access to the FDA approved WeGovy pill and the FDA approved WeGovy pen. WeGovy is designed to help you lose weight and keep it off. With Wegovy at Hers, lose up to 20% or more of your body weight when combined with diet and exercise. It helps you regulate your appetite, eat less, and keep the weight off. Plus, Wegovy is the first ever GLP-1 pill for weight loss. Everything is 100% online through Hers. You'll connect with a licensed provider who will determine if treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your medication is delivered right to your door. No insurance necessary. And it doesn't stop there. Weight Loss by Hers goes beyond medication by offering access to 24/7 messaging with your care team and tons of in-app lifestyle and nutrition tips like recipes, meal plans, fitness videos, sleep content, and more. Ready to reach your goals? Visit forhers.com/transform to get personalized, affordable care that gets you. That's forhers.com/transform. Forhers.com/transform. Weight Loss by Hers is not available in all 50 states. Wegovy is the registered trademark of Novo Nordisk AS. To get started and learn more, including important safety information, Wegovy clinical study information, and restrictions, visit forhers.com. There's something powerful about the way you show up in the world, not just in your mindset, but how you carry yourself, how you feel in your own skin, and yes, even in what you wear. That's why I'm excited to share one of my favorite discoveries with you today, Quince. I recently paired a blue and white linen pants with a white linen top. I was impressed with the perfect fit and casual luxury had everyone complimented my look. Quince makes it easy to refresh your wardrobe this spring with pieces that feel as good as they look. They use premium materials like 100% European linen, organic cotton, and ultra soft denim. Their lightweight linen pants, dresses, and tops start at just $30 and are effortless, breathable, and easy to wear on repeat. Everything at Quince is 50 to 80% less than similar brands. They work directly with ethical factories and cut out the middleman, so you're paying for quality and craftsmanship, not brand markup. Refresh your everyday with luxury you'll actually use. Head to quince.com/TYM for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/TYM for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/TYM. All right. Well, that's one of the questions I have here. So let's get to it.
What is it?
Can you explain guided psilocybin sessions and this MDMA assisted therapy?
Okay,
And
so
what can we learn about our own mental patterns when we go through that? And why is that one different from the ayahuasca and the other seven?
well,
Because you said there's 9 of them.
as I said, so they're all different because they're different compounds and they work on different receptor systems in the brain. Okay. And we're still trying to learn what receptor systems they all work on. Okay. But the one thing they have in common is this ability to open this critical period, as I mentioned before. So let's start with psilocybin. So these are mushrooms that grow in the ground, and they are plants. And it's called Psilocybe cubensis is the genus name. And they are powerful substances that have been, again, in use. These have been in use for, again, a couple of hundred years. And They were first discovered by the West in Mexico in the 1950s. And they can be synthesized in a lab, but you can really, I mean, right now they're very popular because they grow very abundantly. And they grow particularly abundantly in damp, moist climates, the West Coast, Pacific Northwest, San Francisco, where I am today, and where it's raining. These are places where it's quite easy to grow mushrooms, but really people grow them under their beds or in their closets. They're not that to grow. And they produce a psychedelic experience, sometimes with strong visuals, not always. The trip lasts between 6 and 8 hours. And as I mentioned, there are a lot of retreats that are using psychedelic mushrooms today. When I did one, I did it in Jamaica with a group of guides and psychologists based out of New York. We all went to Jamaica together, but there are now psychedelic retreats pretty much everywhere. Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Jamaica, Mexico, many, many, many places. Portugal, because in some countries they are not against the law. And actually in the states of Colorado and Oregon, they are not against the law either.
Okay.
And you can sign up for psychedelic assisted therapy in a few states and municipalities around the United States. And this is changing rather quickly now. Quite interesting.
Right. Because I know that I think I mentioned when I first started talking is that I think a lot of psychiatrists are starting to prescribe them, but I guess they have to prescribe them where it's legal, or do you have to take them in a retreat?
Psychiatrists are probably the last people that are going to prescribe them because and you can't really prescribe them. They're not approved by the FDA.
Okay.
And psychiatrists like single action molecules, a pill that you take every day. This is what the drug and the pharma system has. This is not how psychedelics work. These are not one.
Well, I was under the impression that they were starting to use them, so I guess I got that wrong.
Yeah, psychiatrists will probably be the last to use them. Okay. Some psychologists are using them, however, and healers, naturopathic healers and other healers are using them. And they are wending their way into various treatment modalities. Definitely. But you cannot prescribe them. There is no way to write a prescription.
To write a prescription for it, right? Yeah. You can't go pick them up in the pharmacy, right?
Nope, you're not getting them there.
Well, what is this? What is this MDMA assisted therapy? What's that about?
MDMA is a really interesting molecule. It was first discovered in 1912 to stop, I think, blood clotting. I may have that wrong. And it clearly didn't work. So it was put on the shelf. And in the 1970s, an underground chemist named Alexander Shulgin resynthesized it. And he was a very interesting chemist because he had a group of friends who would try these substances out. And when they tried MDMA, they thought it was pretty amazing because it increases levels of empathy in humans, okay? So when they tried it in the 1970s, a lot of psychologists got very interested in it and started using it in group therapy. And that's where the expression of one MDMA session is as good as a year of couples therapy became well known. All right. So these psychologists were using it, and they were using it for about 4 or 5 years. They even called it Adam. They changed the name of the chemical. They took MDMA and transposed it to ADAM because they didn't want it to get out. They didn't want the federal government to ban it. They thought it was such a powerful substance. Okay. Anyway, of course, and it did get out. It got into the club scene because, hey, anything that makes you empathetic and creates feelings of love and connection is a very powerful thing. And it got into the rave scene, and people would begin to dance. And this went from New York and Dallas and LA into London and Ibiza and Berlin, and became this incredibly popular drug.
So it's a party drug, like
It can be a party drug. Again, the context really matters. You can use it therapeutically and have great experience, great breakthrough experience with it. Again, for trauma, for addiction, for smoking behavior, for depression sometimes also. But it can also be used as a celebratory or as a ritual substance. You can call it a party drug, but you're not going to cure your trauma by going out and dancing. Okay, that isn't how it works. The context really matters here, and that's another reason psychedelics are not like other drugs. Okay, if you're in a therapeutic situation, you have a chance of having a therapeutic breakthrough or milestone. But as a party, you're going to have a nice time and you're going to go home and it's going to be over and nothing major is going to happen. Although you may have a very, very open session of communication with the people you go with. Okay, because it enables you to say the things you're afraid of saying, but equally important, MDMA allows you to hear the things that are often difficult to be heard without the defensiveness.
Nice.
Very interesting substance.
Wow.
Very, very interesting.
So, what does it tell you about your mental patterns? Like, let's say you take this drug and you're in a therapeutic session. Um, what kind of mental barriers does it open up, or does it?
Oh, if only it were that simple, Myrna. It doesn't really work like that, but it enables you to uncover things that may not have been in the forefront of consciousness. Okay.
Mm.
They all do this. Okay. When I said they open up new neural pathways, they open up new ways of perceiving things out of the way you normally perceive them, which is a really interesting thing, right?
Mm.
So you may be able to say, "Oh, my relationship. God, I was thinking about that with you, but here's what's really going on. I said this, I was angry at you, but here's what's really going on a deeper level." And it's hard to describe in the abstract like this, um, but it is a very powerful and well-known experience, what I'm describing.
Nice, nice, nice. If you're in a journey of transforming your mind, your body has to come with you. You can't pour into your purpose when your energy is running on empty. Let's be real. So many of us are trying to push through fatigue, brain fog, and long days, relying on caffeine that spikes us up and then drops us right back down. That cycle is not sustainable. That's why I love Spark Energy Plus Focus. It's my go-to drink for my pre-workout rituals or when I need reliable energy to power through life. So whether I'm recording, coaching, showing properties, or just trying to stay present and productive throughout the day, it helps me show up as my best self. If you're feeling depleted and you're ready for a better way to fuel your day, go ahead and check out Spark Energy Plus Focus. Spark has 120 milligrams of caffeine, amino acids, and taurine help balance the caffeine without jitters or crashes. If you're ready to add spark to your life, Spark Energy Plus Focus is offering 30% off and free shipping. Go to drinkspark.com and use code TRANSFORM at checkout. That code again is TRANSFORM at DRINKSPARK.com. They keep going back to Will Smith's experience with the ayahuasca. Yeah, it opened up mental pathways, allows him to see things clearly, allowed him to, yeah, he felt that he'd gone over to God. And,
Oh,
it was
well,
just very powerful for him. Right,
listen, a
right.
lot of people have mystical experiences
Yeah,
on psychedelics. Now, shall I tell you what the healing profession describes as a mystical experience?
sure.
It's pretty interesting. Okay, there's six qualities they use. So, one, a sense of the sacred, that you have met the source of all being, that it has a noetic quality, which is that the experience is imbued with meaning that's true beyond question. A deep joy, a sense of ecstasy or tranquility or awe, an ineffability that the experience is somehow beyond words.
Hmm.
paradox. This is quite interesting, that you are able to accept the coexistence of mutually exclusive states. So rather than either or, it's both and. And then there's a unitary consciousness that blurs the boundaries between me and you, between nature and me, between that tree and me, that we are all a part of the same fabric. And a lot of religions share these beliefs, right? And this is true for me and true for many, many other people. People that use psychedelics have that experience of, especially that unitary consciousness, that we are all one of this big fabric called life.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's definitely explains Will Smith experience, because that's basically exactly how he explained it. Right.
isn't that
Right. A
interesting?
mystical experience.
Ayahuasca, MDMA, psilocybin, LSD, all of the substances share these qualities, that people have
Yeah.
these experiences on these substances.
Yeah. That's good.
Powerful.
Before that, I heard about that with the near-death experiences, when they go through the tunnel and they see the light and they see the beauty and they see the whole thing. Then they talk about, yeah, which is, if you want to label it a mystical experience,
Yes.
so they have it in their near-death experiences, right? Yeah. So
Have you ever had a near-death experience?
no,
It's
have
a
you?
very beautiful. I have. I on a psychedelic
Oh,
called. It's called 5-MeO DMT, and it is. Shall I tell you where it comes from?
sure.
It's found on a frog that exists in the Sonoran Desert, which is Arizona, southern Texas, and northern Mexico. It's a very limited area, okay? And these frogs are somehow captured, and they have these glands on their back called parotid glands, and you
Mhm.
squeeze the glands, and
My God.
I know, so crazy, right? And a
Well,
venom
we're
will tell
going
you.
from mushrooms to frogs. I mean, yes.
Well, there's a problem. Well, let me finish though. So the venom comes out, it's dried, and then it's inhaled. Okay. And it's a very short trip. It's 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes. And it is a white, a white experience. And that is what is called a near death experience. And I thought, if this is near death, I'm okay with it.
I know.
It was
Everybody says
not,
that.
it was not scary at all. It was
It was
very,
beautiful.
very, very beautiful, I have to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Very, very beautiful. And
Yeah. I've interviewed about 3 people on the show that have had near-death experiences, and they all say it was so beautiful they didn't want to come back. And it's
incredible.
full of love and light and the whole thing. Right.
Very beautiful. But so the problem now is that um, apparently these frogs are being captured and brought out of their environment where they don't do well,
Mm-hmm.
and they tend to die. And there's now a bit of scarcity around this substance. It is absolutely possible to synthesize this in a lab, um, but this is one of the problems of the so-called psychedelic renaissance, that people are taking advantage of these things, taking advantage of things like frogs, which are in limited supply. Very interesting problem, I think. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and not a great problem. So, other people are trying to synthesize it and provide other ways of having these experiences.
Yeah. Well, you just mentioned one of the ones that I heard about before,
Which one?
magic mushrooms, and they were called psychedelics. It was LSD. Now,
LSD.
I always thought that LSD was a hallucination drug, but it was basically what, like cocaine or heroin. It's didn't have
So,
any it didn't have any pharmaceutical use. It was just basically someone wanted to get high. So
no,
let's
no, no.
talk about that one.
Sure. So LSD was discovered in 1938, but the first journey on it happened in 1942. Um, it is the most powerful one of the most powerful substances on earth. It's measured in millions of grams, not thousands of grams. It's measured in micrograms, not milligrams. Okay.
Mm.
Very powerful. It was owned by Sandoz Pharmaceuticals in the 1940s, and they didn't know what it was. So believe it or not, they sent it out for free to researchers and psychiatrists all around the world, and psychologists said, experiment with this, tell us what it is, tell us what it does. But they gave no dosing recommendations. There was nothing known about it, basically. And I go through the story in more detail in my book, and it's a fascinating story. And so for about 25, 30 years, people were researching LSD, and there was over 1,000 papers written on it. Over 1,000. It's one of the most well-researched psychedelics in the world. And it was known to have incredible effects on depression, on addiction, on alcoholism, where there is no treatment for alcoholism. Depression, alcoholism, same things, trauma, same series. But obviously, in the 1960s, LSD escaped the lab and was used by a lot of people without many guardrails, and was banned by the federal government, and which they then launched an incredible propaganda campaign against this substance. Okay.
Yeah, because people were committing suicide. They were going on top of buildings and jumping off and those things.
That was all that never happened. That was
really that was hype. Okay.
It was propaganda, and it was effective. It was very effective propaganda.
Right.
We sort of all believed it. What was happening in reality is that people were using it at doses far greater than they should have been using it. And everybody was using it. So if you have, look, one thing about psychedelics, I have to say, if you have a history of schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, mental disturbance, you should really not be using psychedelics. Okay.
Oh, really? I thought that's why you use them.
Under therapeutic conditions,
okay,
maybe,
right?
Yeah,
got you.
But not on your own.
On your own, right? Got you.
You're too unsupported. Okay. You really need that support. You also need to know what dose you're taking, and you need to be. If you're not stable, it's not a great idea. It's really not a great idea if you're doing it out on your own. Okay, without support, it doesn't make sense. It's like any pharmaceutical,
of course.
In that way, even though they're not pharmaceuticals. But so it was banned, and which is a real shame, because they are now going back in Switzerland, where they're able to study this and showing that it's highly effective. People are stopping smoking, dealing with their depression, having great therapeutic outcomes with LSD. But the stain of LSD is long and deep, as a result of 45 years of pretty effective propaganda. I don't know how old you are, but when I was younger, there was a very famous ad on TV, and it showed an egg being cracked and then put into a very hot frying pan, and the tagline was, "This is your
Fry
brain,
your brain, right?
Your brain on drugs." Yeah. And let me tell you, that was a really good ad. That was very powerful. Very powerful indeed.
So does LSD really fry your brain, or that's just propaganda again, as you call it?
There's more propaganda. LSD can be a very therapeutic compound used in the right circumstances. And people have been using LSD.
Wow. But you're right. It's got a negative connotation to it, because again, how you were introduced to something, like say you got LSD, my goodness, it's terrible. Now, the one at ayahuasca has got a good connotation. Nobody talks bad about it, because they're saying it's a really good journey. You go to the Amazon, and you've got somebody that's there for you and all that stuff. But yeah, LSD, you're thinking of somebody, locked up in a room and, just getting high out of this world. And then they've got these hallucinations, and they're thinking that they're flying, and then they fly off of that's what I'm paraphrasing. And then they jump off a bridge or something, because they think they can fly.
No, that never happened. And remember, we started this conversation with non-specific amplifiers, right?
Right.
So they are not imposing the idea that you can fly. That's not the case. Okay. I would say most people who use LSD do not think they can fly,
Right.
okay?
Okay. All right.
But however, you can be in scary situations. Like you should not be in water. Not a good idea,
Right.
right?
Right. Right. Because
Because
you're not a fish. Right.
water is powerful. Water can be very powerful. So, I don't
Yeah.
want to say there's no risk. I have to
Mm.
be careful about this. There can definitely be risk when done, what do I want to say, irresponsibly or in situations that you should not be. You should not be driving a car. You
Right.
should not you should not be in water. You should
Right.
be very you need to be on the ground. You need to be in nature where the world is comforting. You
Mm.
don't want to be I find it very unpleasant to do these things in in Times Square, for example, where there's so much stimulation coming at you,
Right. Right.
all the
Right.
roads are open, and there's a lot of people around you and a lot of noise, and I find it very uncomfortable, and I would never want to do that. And that's the problem is people think you know, we don't have a lot of education about how to really use drugs in our society, right? People
Mm.
just take them and go, "Oh, yeah, we're gonna go have a party." Well, psychedelics are really not great party drugs, okay?
Mm.
A lot of stimulation, not good, you know?
Mm.
Uh, a lot of strangers and a lot of noise in big,
Not
busy
good.
places, not so great. Not so
Not good. Okay.
You
All
have an
right.
open experience, but I think
I
that
get it.
having a bad
Well,
experience
you're the perfect person to talk on this because you said you've tried them all, so you're able to talk on it, and then you wrote a book about it. So
I
that's
haven't
amazing.
tried them all. I have never used, DMT, and I've never used Ibogaine. Ibogaine is this
Is
substance that
that
comes.
one of the nine, or that's outside the
Yes.
nine that you
Yeah,
talk
it's
about?
one of the 9 I cover in the book.
Okay.
Ibogaine is fascinating, though. It comes from West Africa, from Gabon and Cameroon in West Africa. It's a very unique climactic, zone, okay? Very
This is
unique.
a mushroom again?
No, this is Ibogaine, okay? This comes from a plant called Iboga tabernat,
Okay.
okay?
All right.
From a bush.
Okay. All right.
It's not a mushroom at
Not a
all.
mushroom. All right.
And it has been used ceremonially for many, many hundreds of years, with couple tribes in these countries, and it is now known to be an effective reducer of addiction and addictive behavior. Okay, and if you look carefully at the science, there is no other substance that does this. We don't know. It's a very complicated substance. We don't know what receptors it's working on. All of
Mm.
them. We know it's on kappa opioid, some serotonin, mu receptor. It's on a bunch of different receptors that not other psychedelics affect. So
Mm.
it's quite unique, very, very unique. It also has, the ability to extend the Q interval in the way the heart beats. So it must be monitored very carefully. Okay.
Okay.
However, okay, listen to this. The state of Texas, which has a lot of veterans, okay, a lot of veterans, has put $50 million in matching grant towards Ibogaine research. This is red state Texas, okay? Red
Mm.
state Texas. So they're testing it with veterans on PTSD and traumatic brain injury in
Mm.
people under very controlled conditions, which is very fascinating. There's also a movie on Netflix, about Ibogaine, Of Wages and War, I want to think it's called. I'll find the name,
Okay.
which you should watch. It's a very interesting film that
Yeah,
tracks
I would.
a bunch of
I
veterans.
am very curious about all these things, so I will definitely watch that. So
This
if you
follows a
can
bunch of
email.
veterans, uh, going into treatment in Mexico who really suffered and found real relief there. So you should definitely have a look at it. Let me see if I
Okay.
can find the name as we're talking here.
No, you can email it to me afterwards, and then I'll add it to the show
Here it is.
notes.
I found it. In Waves and War is what it's called. On Okay, In
So
Waves
you're
and War.
like the millennials, huh? You're quick on the draw on your phone.
I'm so not a millennial, man. But I don't know
Very
because
good,
I'm
very
so
good.
interested. I
Okay,
want to
awesome.
make
Thanks.
sure.
Yes, I'll check that out for sure, and also link out to it in the show notes. All right. So, for someone who feels stuck in cycles of anxiety, trauma, or negative thinking, what is actually happening in the brain through these experiences that allow new neural pathways to form?
Well, as I said, we think that it is the opening of a critical period of learning. Okay, so that
Mm,
different molecular things are happening, and it's very complex. And I'm not so comfortable giving you the hard science of it in this short of a time. But it's a very complex system where uh, structures of the brain are loosening. Let me just put it that way. It's like loosening, okay? That allow new thoughts, new patterns to emerge. And you're able to see them and experiencing them differently. Think of Alice going down the rabbit hole, okay?
mhm,
And you're going to have all these experiences. And some may be very powerful, and you might be able to give them more attention than you would normally give in normal thinking, right? Because it's
mhm,
too emotional, it's too locked up with difficult thoughts and difficult behavior patterns and difficult associations,
mhm.
right? But on the psychedelic, you're able to wander down these different pathways, let's say, and have these experiences and maybe greet them with a little more equanimity, a little more ability to see them and let
Yeah,
them.
you're
And
open to them.
yeah, you're
Yes.
not so
And I'm
afraid.
assuming you remember them when you're out of the stuff. Because
That's
yeah,
what the
Will Smith
integration.
remembered his. You
That's what
remember.
the,
Okay.
that's what the integration period is. So people who are using them are, when they come out, they're usually asked, write things down, try to capture
Ah,
the image, try to capture the images, the
okay.
associations, the thoughts that accompanied these associations, these experiences. And then if you're using them therapeutically, as you're describing, then you would sit with your therapist, your guide, your spiritual counselor, perhaps
Mhm.
your what am I thinking? I'm losing the word. Maybe your
Psychologist.
I was thinking that, but I was thinking more of non-denominational chaplain as the word I was
Oh,
thinking of.
okay.
Your chaplain, okay, which is non-denominational religion, or you could do it with your priest, your rabbi, whoever it is you seek for counsel, and you discuss and you explore. And
Mm,
but this is why therapists are very interested in this, because it takes time. It really does take time
mm.
and thinking and work to really get to the greater meaning
Okay.
of what you're talking.
So let's say that I take one of these ones. I was going to say ayahuasca or
You go
psychedelic
there.
or whatever one. And
Okay.
I hang on, and I see this mystical, I don't know. I see something. Why am I seeing that thing? Is it something to do with something that I've stuffed down? What is it that I normally see? What is my experience? Does it mean anything?
Boy, you're asking a lot of questions.
No,
Um,
that
I
was just
don't
one.
know. I don't know what you will see. I cannot address that. The mind is a very complicated thing, and all of our minds are very, very
Okay.
different. And
All right.
there is no one experience that
Okay.
psychedelics
All
will
right.
deliver. Remember, we talked at the very beginning, non-specific amplifiers. You have a mind that has been active for however old you are, and a
Mhm.
million, gazillion, uncountable number of impressions are in that mind. Okay, locked away, stored away, driving your behavior, not driving your behavior, who knows, right? It's very we do not understand the way the mind is structured. So um, what you will see could be different patterns. It could be if you're taking a substance like 5-MeO DMT from the frog, you're not going to see much. It's quite a white experience. Okay,
Mm. Okay.
different substances have different visual, sonic, auditory, uh, temporal, that time changes. There are many different, we could call them distortions if you want, or you could call them uh, interesting effects. Uh,
Okay.
occur, okay? Like music can be extremely powerful and
Mm.
very emotional on a psychedelic. It's a very interesting connection.
Mm. Okay.
Very beautiful, often profound, um,
Hmm.
and very emotional. I remember I've had moments where I've had to cry because the emotion of music is so powerful.
So beautiful. Wow. Okay.
So powerful, okay? And not only music, it may not even be music that you love. It may be a completely different type of music. It could be like you may love pop music, but sometimes classical music can really touch you, really
Well,
move
I'm
you,
sure.
of
Yeah,
course.
I'm sure.
And
Classical music is meant to move,
it is
even when you're not on a psychedelic, right?
that's exactly right. It's meant to provoke emotion, but when you're on the psychedelic, you have a much, I would say, deeper relationship to that music. Very interesting, right? I can't like I find jazz almost impossible to listen to on a psychedelic. There's too much energy coming out.
Mm.
And
Okay.
I like jazz in my everyday life, but
Mm.
it's too strong for me.
Too strong for you. Okay.
So this is Joe. You may have a very different experience on jazz, right? And if you're
Yeah.
Miles Davis, you may have a completely different experience on jazz.
Right, right, right. Amazing. All right. Well, this is a great conversation. So, tell us
Sure.
about your book, Modern Psychedelics, the Handbook for Mindful Exploration. Why did
So
you write it, and what do you want the readers to walk away with after reading?
well, I wanted to, well, we're in a different phase of psychedelics now. About 20 years ago, serious science began to get done. Okay. They petitioned the federal government and a couple of scientists, and the government allowed a few experiments, and those multiplied over time. So we now have a growing body of scientific research that really backs up a lot of things we're talking about today. For example, the therapeutic approaches, backs up some of the indigenous approaches as well. Very interesting. And we also have indigenous knowledge that in the last 20, there wasn't a lot of reciprocity going on um, in the 19 early in the early part of psychedelics. People were going to the Amazon and or wherever, Africa, and sort of taking what they thought were uh, the rituals and the behaviors back to the West, but not really. They weren't really understanding. But we now have a richer body of that also, richer body of indigenous, richer body of science, and 60 years of people, at least 60 years of people experimenting. These are citizen scientists, people like me or you, not you, but people like you, who are
Right.
experimenting and writing and chronicling and learning about what these things are capable of. And I thought it's really a good time to put out a book that blends science, spirit, and and user experience, okay, in one handy little volume. And um, the other reason I approach this is because access is very open right now. The government is not policing psychedelics like they used to, okay, for some reason unknown. But they're not. They're making them low priority offenses. So there are a lot of psychedelics out there in the world these days. And all you
Nice.
have to do is start looking for them and you will find them. And I thought it was a really good idea to talk about wise use. What are
Mm.
good doses? What are good ways to prepare for journeys? What are good ways to come out of journeys? How,
Mm.
as a couple, you can use them.
That's
Yeah.
nice.
Well, yes. And also, what are the risks? What are
Okay.
the risks? I'm not 20 years old anymore, and a lot of people I know are no longer 20 years old who are using psychedelics. But as you grow older, you have things like heart conditions and all sorts of how it is. You get older and the body starts to
Mhm.
change. To put it nicely, okay? And there are certain conditions that you should be wary of. You should be very aware.
Mm.
If you have a heart condition and certain psychedelics are going to rev up your heart, you better know that ahead of time.
Mm.
And
Okay.
if you're on SSRIs, if you're on antidepressants, you need to
Mhm.
know that because many psychedelics do not go well with antidepressives. You need to wean off those antidepressives and you need to wean off of them slowly and carefully.
Mm.
Again, under support because they can be very, very, very discombobulating if you go off
Mhm.
too quickly, as I'm sure you know. So you need to know what am I taking and what does this psychedelic interact with, right? So I really
That's
thought
good.
it was time to write a book like this because I want to help people avoid problems and to get the best possible experience out of these substances, right? Or to understand, like, oh wow, hey, modern medicine isn't really helping my depression, or
But it doesn't.
it's not helping my addictive behavior because there's nothing I can take.
Yeah, it doesn't. And I think that's probably why the government is have a handoff approach, because again, whether it's hype or whether it's true, they're getting some good reviews in the mainstream public that it actually helps and that it works.
They're getting
So
good reviews in the halls of science, okay? Think about it. 20 years ago, if you were a scientist and you wanted to research psychedelics, forget it. That was the end of your career. Say 25 years ago.
right,
Today,
yeah, yeah,
Berkeley, NYU, Columbia, University of Wisconsin, University of Maryland, you name it, University of San Francisco, there are labs studying psychedelics.
yeah, yeah,
You name
yeah.
it.
So
Imperial College of
yeah,
London, go on and on and
yeah.
on.
And mental illness has become a real big thing. And apparently, these drugs are supposed to help, which is why I wanted to have the conversation with you, because we are addressing something that can actually help with mental illness. I mean, I have interviewed psychiatrists, psychologists, and they say that those drugs that they give you don't work. You can't get off of them, which
And
is what you
and
just
it's
said. You,
hard.
you got to wean yourself off carefully. So yeah, this is an alternative. And
Interesting.
you just said that
Isn't
it's
it
not
interesting?
addictive either, right? I
Well,
don't know if
but
all of them are, but
you
you said ayahuasca was not addictive, right?
ayahuasca is not an addictive substance, no, and
Right.
and most are not. I mean, Matthew Perry overused ketamine. He died of.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that one. When you
And he
talk
had
about
about 10
dosage,
times, he had 10 times the amount of
is that a psychedelic?
ketamine as a psychedelic. It's also
Oh,
known
really?
as an,
I did not know that.
as a dissociative.
But he was prescribed it. I thought you said that they didn't prescribe it. He was prescribed it by
So
a doctor.
ketamine is Schedule 3. It's the only psychedelic that is Schedule 3, and it can be used because it's been used in hospitals since 1962 as an
Okay.
anesthetic. Okay? It's a very safe drug used properly. He had 10 times the amount he should have had in his system, and he was in a hot tub.
Water.
He was in a hot tub, which is raising your blood temperature and not your blood pressure. And he was also on other drugs that are anti-addictive drugs. Okay, he
Mm.
was a pharmacy of
Wow.
substances that should have never been put together in a
Put
body
together.
in
Wow.
a hot tub.
Wow.
Okay,
Yeah, like you said, you don't go in water, right? But
no,
I'm thinking swimming,
especially not
but
in
you're
hot
right. He was
water.
in a hot tub. Same thing. Yep. Yep.
So
Yep.
his doctor has actually been indicted for
Yes.
over and over prescribing.
Yeah, I think I saw that recently. Right.
It was
Right.
a very, very terrible circumstance that he
Yeah.
was, that he found
Okay.
in.
Well,
Um,
I'm glad we ended with that one because people can actually relate. So tell us where we can pick up a copy of your book. Tell us your website. Tell us your social media handles for anybody that wants more information on this fascinating subject.
Thanks, Myrna. The book is called Modern Psychedelics, as you said, the Handbook for Mindful Exploration. It's on Amazon. There's an audio book. You can ask in your local bookstore. It's around. There's also a Substack, also called Modern Psychedelics, that you can subscribe to. It's free, where I try to extend certain topics I dealt with in the book. I interview other people or the same people. You can hear great interviews on it. And those are really the two places you're going to find it. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm Joe Dolce, Dolce. You can find me on Instagram at Joe Dolce. Those are my handles. Those are mostly where I'm posting. Come visit, ask questions, buy the book. And if you buy the book, same to you, Myrna, give me a review on Amazon. The mainstream press does not want to know about a book about how to use drugs mindfully. Okay, they're not that interested.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
I would
for sure.
appreciate any feedback you can offer.
Sure,
Yes.
sure. Yes. It sounds like a real great thing. Um, I didn't mention it earlier, but I interviewed a gentleman that had the Muscaria mushrooms.
Sure.
You know that one? Right.
I know it.
Um, yes. Sorry?
I've never used Amanita muscaria. I've never used it. It's another mushroom. It's a psychoactive mushroom. It's
Yeah, he
not
said it's not a psychedelic. It's a psychoactive. Right. Yes.
psychoactive. I don't think it's quite the psychedelic. It doesn't land in that category for some
Right.
reason. I don't know why. I just don't know it that well. So I don't
Right.
know.
Right.
What did
So
he, what,
yeah, I will actually when I air this episode, I will put those two together so people can see, both of them. I like that because, I started doing themes now. So that's amazing. Right. Yeah. So what I found exciting about the Amascaria mushroom is that he said it can help people with gamma addictions, which is alcohol and I don't remember what else, but I remember the alcohol part of it. So that
well,
was great.
I just want to be clear. Again, I'll
Mm.
say this. You cannot just take a psychedelic and fix yourself and fix your illness. Okay. You need support. You need therapeutic support. I just have to be clear about that.
About
Okay.
that, right, right.
Otherwise, we would have a very healthy world where everybody's happy
Right,
and no
right,
depression.
right.
Okay,
Well,
let's
that's
just be
good to put
honest.
that disclaimer in there. Right. You need help with that. Right.
You
Okay.
need the support. It's the
Right.
way these things work. And I explain this in great detail in the book, which is why it's, I think, worth reading the book,
Mhm.
as to how that's really effective. Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, your book sounds amazing, and I like the title, A Handbook for Mindful Exploration, because it sounds like it is a great handbook and guide.
It is. It's
All
also a
right.
beautiful. Did you like the cover? I mean, it's a beautiful book. Did you see what
Yeah.
they did?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
did a
It's
very beautiful
very
book.
nice book, right? And of course, I'll link out to it on the show notes.
Thank
All
you.
right. So as we wrap up, what I really appreciate about this conversation is the balance. Not the hype, not the fear, but thoughtful exploration. Because healing is not a shortcut. It is not a single experience. It's one, it's not one breakthrough moment. It's preparation, it's intention, it's integration. So whether or not psychedelics are ever part of your journey, the deeper message here is powerful. Our minds are not fixed. Our patterns are not permanent. Neuroplasticity reminds us that change is possible, but responsibility is required. If this conversation resonated with you, share it with someone who may be researching for hope, especially someone who feels stuck in cycles that they can't break. And as always, remember transformation isn't about chasing experiences, it's about doing the inner work. So, Joe, here's where you might have any last words for our audience if they want to go try solid psychedelics, reading your book. What's your last words?
Well, first of all, I love what you said about chasing experience. I think it's not the way to go. I think, have a have a powerful experience, but make meaning from it. Okay. Do the work to get to the meaning. And I would say, look, do your homework. If you're gonna start with psychedelics and you're inexperienced, read my book, read other books, read things, talk to people, learn before you just put something into your body that can be very destabilizing. It can be destabilizing in a great way, or it can be destabilizing in a difficult way. And
Yeah.
be prepared. I think that's the way to go, huh?
Yeah, I love that. Yes. Don't just say, what I can't believe in the movies, somebody would just walk up to someone and says, "Hey, take this pill." And then they take the pill and they have this really bad experience. I'm thinking, who is just going to take a pill and pop it in your mouth? It's the
A
same
lot of
thing.
people do.
I know, you don't go to a party and someone says, "I'll take this LSD," and you take it and then you're, whatever. Yes, be prepared, read a book, understand what you're doing before you go just take a pill. Or I don't even know how you take these things, whether it's a
Well,
pill
you
or
take it in very different forms. There's a lot to talk about, Myrna. We have many things to discuss, but thank you for this. Appreciate it very much.
thing. Yes, so do your research, and that's what Joe's book is all about. And this was a great conversation. Follow him and learn more. So all right. So thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode of the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life podcast. We were talking about psychedelics today. Thank you, Joe, for being on the show. Thank you for giving us statistics and all the information about these drugs. And of course, if you want a little hour-long conversation, this is just to whet your appetite. If you want to learn more, go pick up a copy of Joe's book. I will link out to it from the show notes as well as from my website, which is myhelps.us. So you can just head over there and pick up a copy of, link out to the book. So until next time, thank you, Joe, for being on the show. Until next time, keep learning, keep healing, and keep transforming your mind. Namaste.
Namaste, Myrna. When will you publish?